part 3 of the series of us kind of brushing up on the exterior of the Mini, we're going to be talking about touch-up paint. I am not going to go into super strict detail, especially on things like the spray touch-up paint, because I am not a paint and body guy. You do not want me to do your paint and body. It looks good enough for me, but it may not look good enough for you. So there are much better videos on how to lay all this down. Today we're going to focus more on the smaller items here. So we have a pen, so it's got a little paint pen applicator here. So take the lid off. So it's got a very, very small fine tip here. You can apply it into cracks and different smaller damages. This one is actually a little brush, and this is what we'll be using today on the Mini. So we have the Mini is our chili red, which I'll show you where to find that code, but it will match up on the number and on the name. Now this number might be used on other cars, but you just want to make sure that everything correlates. One issue I've run into, and I've seen other people have this problem, is BMW likes to use the same name and number, and somehow it is a different paint. So especially for their white, which I did have this issue on my wife's X5M, of this white is not exactly correct, and I don't think it's the company that I used. I think it's just a problem that BMW gets a little bit fishy. They have like 3 or 4 different shades of their specific whites. So just double check on your car, do a quick internet search in the forums, make sure it's not a problem. But I've used multiple different companies. This one is just one I got off eBay. It's just a guy who mixes paint and they sell it through their eBay store. Again, this is another one for the Mini, and this is one I've used multiple times. I used it on my wife's Altima before we sold it. I got the spray paint, and I also got pins. I got a pin for my E39 as well. So those worked perfectly. So I do recommend Touch Up Direct if you want something. They have a really good system. It's a little bit pricier than some of these options because these came with free shipping on eBay, came pretty quickly. You can kind of shop around and find a cheaper price. But if you want a larger thing or you want some consistency across, I want a pen, I want a brush, and I want spray paint, depending on what you're doing, you can get all of them there. And they come with this really nice clear. I completely repainted the front little hood scoop on the Mini, and it turned out really well with this product. It matched really well. The finish was good. It does need a slight buff just to bring down the orange peel, but that's a problem with spray cans, not a problem with the product. But today we're going to be focusing on our little brush here because we do have a few different spots across the Mini where we've got scratches and dents and little chips because it's a car that's been pretty well used. So we're just going to try and give it a little bit of a touch up. This is not going to fix those issues. It's not going to be something that, you know, if you're doing a show car or if you're trying to have a really, really nice paint job, this is not the way to go. You're going to have to get it professionally fixed, or you're going to have to do it yourself and kind of sand back, and you're going to have to turn a little itty bitty tiny scratch into a bigger area as you feather everything in. What this is going to do is it's going to pass the 5-foot test. It's going to turn something that is primer gray or black or whatever contrasting color to your car color, and it's going to make it at least the same color. So I have some spots on my wife's X5M where you can see the black plastic underneath. You touch it up with white paint and you walk past it, you'll never notice. If you're looking for it or inspecting the car, of course you're going to find it. However, if you're just walking past it, you're just going to see red where that scratch used to be, and it's going to get the job done for a good daily driver vehicle. Also, while we're doing this video, we're going to replace the front emblem on the Mini, so I'm going to show you how to do that, but that's just because that one's deteriorated. So front emblem, a little bit of touch-up paint, and hopefully the car's exterior will be done. So we'll start with the front emblem just because that should go pretty quickly. I'm going to use some dental floss, so just regular dental floss. Fishing line works better, but I am out right now, so the dental floss will have to do. But what you're going to do is take some of the dental floss and then you're going to string it back and forth, saw away at the adhesive. Now if you can look at our replacement here, it's the same exact thing. Make sure it's the same size. With R53s, this is a smaller emblem on the front to make room for the hood scoop. On the regular R50s, it is going to be about twice as big and it'll go in the same spot. You also have to look at there's these 2 posts back here. So we're going to have to saw to about here and then to here. And then we're going to have to start prying up on it to get past that post so we can cut out the center section. Now the dental floss is not nearly as strong as the fishing line will be, so it may break. So you can see we are in as far as we can be because there's two poster right there. So we've carved the top, bottom, left, and right. And with that, we may be able to start prying away at it because there shouldn't be too much left holding it on. That came off pretty easy. Again, it's the same exact piece. It's just our old one is missing this center section, whereas the new one is not. So we're gonna have to gently scrape away this adhesive here. You can use your fingernail or a piece of plastic. You can also use some sort of solvent like a Goo Gone. I'm gonna gently scrape it away with my fingernail and then clean it up, and we'll be ready to put the new one on. So you can see where I have the foam-backed double-sided tape across the entire back of the emblem. It does not have to be perfect, just cover as much area as you can. We're gonna peel off all of the backing and gently place it here. It's almost impossible to get it wrong because it's got those two posts, so there's really not any left or right or up or down movement. And as you can tell, this is all perfectly clean, so I wiped it off with a little bit of Goo Gone to get every last little trace of adhesive from the original gone. All right, so we'll get it all lined up. And firmly press it on there. Give it a quick wipe down. Get rid of any fingerprints. And wow, oh, that looks so much better than the one with the missing mini emblem. It just makes the front of the car look a lot more complete. Now we'll move on to our touch-up paint. So if you pop the hood on your car and you look on what in North America would be the passenger side strut tower, you're going to see your paint code right here. So mine is Chili Red, which is number 851. So if we pan the camera up just a little bit, you can see we've got the strut tower right here on the passenger side and all of our ABS equipment right here. So just over there on that passenger side above the wheel, next to your windshield washer fluid reservoir, you've got your paint code. So if you have any question about which color you have, that's where you're gonna find that. So here is the very large and multifaceted scratch that we're gonna be trying to fix with the touch-up paint. Again, we are never gonna make this perfect. This is actually a little bit of a dent as well. I don't know what did this, but I mean, you've got this big deep scratch up here, some shallower scratches here, and then some small ones over here as well. So it is really a gnarly scratch, but it's very, very obvious when you're walking by the car. So whether you're at a car show, track day, just in a parking lot, people are gonna notice this, whereas just a little bit of the touch-up paint and we are going to make it a little bit more difficult to see. So it's not going to be car show ready, but it will look much, much better. So I've gone ahead and masked off the area. I've tried to keep it tight to the scratch so that we can get a nice clean line here. We will probably polish this down just a little bit once we get a few days to fully cure. But I've got this really well cleaned. I'm going to give it a very, very light sand in a couple of spots. I mean, just a very, very fine sand with some 400 grit just inside the scratch to make sure there's no debris. And then what we're going to do is go ahead and apply the touch-up paint with the provided brush. You want to be very gentle with this. It's better to do 2 or 3 light coats than put a lot on there and have it drip. And you'll notice because this is so deep, we are going to have to layer this back up a little bit just to get it level with the rest of the paint. One thing to make sure you do is shake this up before use. The paint can settle out. Usually they'll warn you on there to shake, but just in case it doesn't, just go ahead and do it. It's a good practice to get into. But let's go ahead and get started. And that's literally it for the sanding. So now I've got some isopropyl alcohol on a cloth here, and we're just going to gently wipe that down. Again, you can see we've got a little bit of red here, so we did get some debris out and a little bit of paint. That light sand, so we're just going to go ahead and wipe this back off, let this dry, and then once that's completely dry, we'll hit it with a microfiber towel just to make sure that there's no debris left, and then we can start applying paint. Alright, so we've shaken our paint. We're going to pull our brush out. I like to drag it on the side of the canister here because we have a lot of extra paint on the applicator that we don't need. We have so much paint on here, so we do not want that much because if we have too much paint, it's going to run. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to work with. So you can see we've got all this paint building up here. We want to put that back in our bottle. And just do a very, very light first coat. Being very gentle. Well, there's our first coat done. It already does look much better. Again, like I said, this will not be perfect. You can tell that this is a scratch fix with touch-up paint. The paint will settle a little bit, so it did fill up this crack here, but as it dries and loses that water content, it will recede a little bit. So we'll keep building up in this little crack here and this larger scratch here, but over here, I think we're gonna be done. Of course, this won't have clear coat on it. Depending on which paint you buy, it will recommend clear coat or not. Like the Touch Up Direct will recommend a clear coat. The one that I bought did not. However, it's always a good idea to add clear coat, A, for protection, and B, because as you blend this in, you can buff everything out with the rest of the clear coat. So it's always a good idea to have clear over your color. So I'm just going to repeat that process a couple more times, taking my time letting it dry, and then I will show you guys the finished product. As you'll probably notice, it is a little bit more difficult to see, but it is still visible, especially if you know where it is and if you're looking for it. So will this be something that people walk by when they're in a track paddock? Sure, they won't even notice it's there. But again, it is not a replacement for proper paint correction. But for the $10 invested and a little bit of time, I really do think this is a pretty good result. I've done a bunch of small different chips all over the rest of the car, but so for now, this will do. But with that, we've concluded our work on the exterior of the car. So we've added the hood stripes, we refreshed the trim, we have corrected the paint, we fixed our emblems up, we even blacked out the little corner markers on all four corners. So I've done quite a bit of work on the exterior of the car just to make it a little bit cleaner, a little bit more cohesive. From now on, we're just going to keep it cleaned and waxed and all of that. But really, there won't be any sort of extreme changes to the exterior of the car. I like the way it looks, I like the retro look, I don't want to change that. From here on out, it's going to be all performance modifications. So of course, like always, stick around for that, drop some comments below, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next week.